Good morning, happy Saturday. It's Saturdays, 7:30, very early. But we're going to carry on reading Mark chapter 4. We are in verses 26 to 34 today. So we're coming towards the end of chapter 4 of Mark's Gospel. So this is what it says. "This is what God's kingdom is like," said Jesus. "Once upon a time, a man sowed seed on the ground. Every night he went to bed. Every day he got up, and the seed sprouted and grew without him knowing how it did it. The ground produces crops by itself. First the stalk, then the ear, then the complete corn. But when the crop is ready, in goes the sickle at once, because harvest has arrived." "What shall we say God's kingdom is like?" he said. "What picture shall we give of it? It's like a grain of mustard seed. When it's sown on the ground, it's the smallest of all seeds of the earth. But when it's sown, it springs up and becomes the biggest of all shrubs. It grows large branches so that the birds of the air make their nests within its shade." He used to tell them a lot of parables like this, speaking the words as much as they were able to hear. He never spoke except using parables, but he explained everything to his own disciples in private. So Jesus here is explaining, he says, what is God's kingdom like? And he uses two parables to explain what God's kingdom is like. And it says that that's how he always spoke. And if you go through any of the Gospels, there are lots of different parables. So it's a story with like a meaning inside. I did quite note though, he said that right at the very end of that passage, here we go, it says, but he explained everything to his disciples in private. So they got the actual explanation and what it all meant. But the general people, when Jesus was speaking, he spoke in parables. And the reason that he did this is because they said that the people weren't ready. They weren't ready to hear what he had to say. And if you remember that, as we've gone through up to these 4 chapters so far, that people were plotting against him already, that they weren't happy with the things that he was saying. So he perhaps needed to be a bit more covert with what he was saying, because they were already plotting against him for the things that he was doing. But also right back, probably right back at the beginning when we started this, do you remember we were saying that Jesus wasn't what the Jews were expecting? That's not how they expected the Messiah to be. They were expecting this big warrior to come, and it was this carpenter's son, this just ordinary guy, and who claimed he was the Messiah. And this was not what they were expecting. They read the Old Testament, they had the Old Testament, and they knew that he was coming. But that's not, when Jesus actually came, that's not what they were expecting, which is why the religious leaders were dead against him. If you see, so it says, Jesus himself says, so what is God's kingdom like? It's like a grain of mustard seeds. That's the smallest seeds that you can get, mustard seeds. But they grow, it says here, when it's sown to the ground, the smallest of all seeds. But when it's sown, it springs up and becomes the biggest of all shrubs. And that's what this was like. So Jesus was just the small little mustard seed come, and over time, once it's planted and is sown, it will become the biggest of all shrubs. Now, yesterday, Meg's passage, the passage she read, was a challenge to Christians, wasn't it? That it said, do you hide your light under a bowl? Do your friends know that you are Christian? Do you hide your light? Do you hide that fact? Or are you open? Do you tell people? Do people know? But today, it's not a challenge for Christians, really. It's a thought for those who are not Christians. And I think sometimes we get this impression that to become a Christian is this massive, like blinding light, and it's a big change in your life, and it's this defining moment that you can always remember. I know there's a lot of people that, you know, that I speak to, and they say, oh, I still remember, you know, I became Christian at this age and it was a massive transformation for me. But that's not always how it happens. Sometimes it's like in the first parable that we read, that it says that the man sowed the seed on the ground, and every night he went to bed and every night he woke up, and the seed sprouted and grew without him knowing about it. And sometimes that's what it's like. Sometimes it's this small little change in your life, and there's no actual defining moment that you can put your finger on to say, this is where I became a Christian. And that is just as relevant, just as right, just as correct, or, you know, whatever the word you want to use, is just as the same as those people who have these massive transformations. So if you're watching this and you thinking, well, no, I can't be a Christian because, you know, I haven't had this massive life-changing moment, it's not always like that. And Jesus says that, you know, this is what God's kingdom is like. It's the smallest seed that came from this man, this carpenter's son, this normal man from Nazareth. And it grew and it grew, and it's still growing, you know? And I hope that one day we'll actually, well, not I hope, I know for me that one day Jesus will explain a lot of these things to me in person in heaven. And I just wait for that. I'm looking forward to that day. I'm not ready yet, but there you are. But so that's today's, is that Jesus was saying that this is what God's kingdom is like. So yesterday was a challenge for Christians, you know, not to hide our light under a bowl. And today it's more of a thought, you know, that God's kingdom came from this tiny little seed, and it will grow into the biggest shrub. So I hope you enjoy your Saturday, and we will see you on Monday. Jess will be back with you on Monday, and we'll see you then. Bye.